Hi, hello, and welcome to part 2 of this tutorial series on Fuse tools. In the previous part, we had created a project which created a UI for the restaurant app, and in the next part, we're going to follow the steps in part 2 of this tutorial series where it has a list of restaurants. So in this case, they've described creating a list of hikes, and in order to create a list of restaurants, what we'll do is we'll copy the sample data, and instead of hikes we'll call it restaurants. So in our main view.ux, you can create a variable called hikes. We'll just create some test data here, and we'll call this restaurants, and to give them some names, we'll call it coffee and bagels. We'll call this soup and bagels, then call it salads and bagels, call it tea and bagels, and finally we can have smoothies and bagels, right? So now we have 5 restaurants, and now we need to render them in our UI. So we create a variable in our module.exports, and we'll, instead of hikes, we're going to call it restaurants. And we have our restaurants exported, and the next step is to create a each iterator, and this iterator can go into the stack panel, but notice that the iterator stack panel is inside a scroll view. So in our stack panel, we can wrap this inside a scroll view, and wrap it on the other side as well, and inside that scroll view we'll create the each block inside the stack panel. So we create the each block in there, and let's actually re-indent this block which is inside the scroll view. So now we have a each block which has restaurants as the iterating variable, and each iterating variable should have a button inside it. So we create a button inside the iterator like that. Now this should give us 5 buttons. So let's see the UI. So as you can see, there's 5 buttons with the names of the restaurant. So it automatically inferred the name from the restaurant variable, or the restaurant object, I should say. So now if we want to create a restaurant observable, we can call the constructor for observable. So out here, after the restaurants array, we can create a restaurant, single restaurant observable. So this gives us a restaurant that's the single value, and what they want us to do is actually create a map that would return the name from the restaurant map. And so what we'll do is create these 5 variables from the value of the restaurant map. Now the restaurant map automatically maps each individual property of the object. So for instance, if we look at location, the function that the map is taking is returning the location for that object, which is an argument inside the function. And so over here, where we have the hard-coded values for name, location, distance, rating, and comments, that can just go away. And now we have a map that returns the properties for each restaurant that is part of the array. Now we need a way to choose one of the restaurants, so we can say choose restaurant. We can create a function called choose restaurant inside that JavaScript block. So we can probably just create a step function for now, and we'll call it choose restaurant, and there. Now the button that has the value of the restaurant should have a clicked event which calls the choose restaurant function. So the click event on that button which has the name on it should call choose restaurant, but choose restaurant should return some value, or at least it should bind to some value. Now according to their description, when the data binding happens from the button, the function receives an argument containing this data field, and that data field is the current data context for the button. So if we look at the argument that's getting passed into the choose restaurant method, that is the data field corresponding to the data context of the button, and the value bastion containing the data context for the button, and the value that we set on the restaurant object, it can be the value of the data in the argument object, right? So a bit convoluted, but still makes sense. So now if we save this, we should have click events on those buttons. Oh, it's saying error on line 52, so line 52 is the location. Let's see. So we have the observable and the choose restaurant method, and let's see, the hikes, and alright, I think I missed out a semicolon at the end of, okay, I have the semicolon there, and line 52 should have this. Alright, so I haven't changed the name to restaurant for location. Okay, so the error should now disappear, and we have those 5 click events. So let's just resize the window again. Okay, so we have click events on all the buttons, and now we can actually do something when the clicks happen. So let's actually go to the next chapter. So in this chapter, yeah, we'll continue in the next tutorial.